When I say next slide, please continue to the next slide. Next slide. This is a summary by Anna Bynum for Esci 302. Next slide. The paper is Environmental Disturbance Increases Social Connectivity in a Passerine Bird. Next slide. The authors are Samantha M. Lance and Jordan Caribbean. Next slide. Lance and Caribbean looked at the social connectivity of a population of passerine birds, the red-backed fairy wren, or Malaris melanocephalus. Next slide. They did this in the Northern Territory of Australia before and after fire disturbances occurred during their non-breeding season 2 years in a row. These birds require grasses for food and predation protection and are found in a very fire-prone area. During their non-breeding season, they form flocks of varying size and demographic. Next slide. The prediction was that after a fire, either the social connectivity of the red-backed fairy wren would increase due to their being forced to share the remaining grass patches, or that their connectivity would decrease due to isolation caused by the fragmentation of the grass patches. Next slide. The importance of this study is found in that very few studies focus on social connectivity within the same natural population before and after a disturbance. Most studies to this effect are conducted in a lab. Also, studies done in the field most commonly look at separate, non-interacting populations of the same species. Next slide. There are 4 ideas concerning how environment and social structure of a population interact. One is that the more open the habitat, the greater the social connectivity. The second is just the opposite. The less open and more complex a habitat, the social connectivity will be reduced. The third counters the second in that a complex habitat provides more pathways for social interactions. The fourth is neutral and queries that social connectivity of populations are the same across all complexities of habitat. Lance and Caribbean were able to gain real-world insight into the interactions between individuals of a population before and after their habitat was altered by bushfires. Next slide. Lance and Caribbean were able to capture and color band most of the red-backed fairy wrens within their study area. They categorized the wren populations by whether or not they were affected by fire disturbance both before and after the mid-study burns, and those never affected were used as a control. As well, they compared the density of grasses and grass patches undisturbed by fire compared to randomly sampled plots in order to understand the type of habitats chosen by the wrens. Next slide. In 2013, 30% of this area was burned, 80% in 2014, and both burns occurred in the middle of their study period, allowing for pre- and post-fire observations. The assumption was made that all birds seen or netted together were all associating with one another, and they compared these interactions with the locations of fire scars within the study area. Next slide. They found that groups affected by fire were observed spatially closer post-disturbance and occupied much denser grass patches than those pre-disturbed or not affected. Wrens who were never affected by fire showed little change in their flock size and habitat choices, which allowed Lance and Caribbean to determine it was the fire which altered their behavior, not other factors. You can see this in the chart on the left with all the dots. You have the distribution of the fairy wrens on the left side of the chart pre-fire and then post-fire on the right side of the chart, and you can see how much more clumped together they are in that chart. A generalization was made that as preferred habitats are separated and resources are reduced due to disturbance, population density in the preferred habitat areas increase. You can see this in the chart on the right. You can see that the post-fire fairy wrens chose patches with high grass density compared to random plots. Next slide. Lance and Caribbean would like to further study whether this has positive or negative outcomes for the red-backed fairy wrens. This population response to fire disturbance may benefit the wrens in that they are better able to transfer info between one another, therefore increasing protection from predation and more success in foraging for insects. On the other hand, these close proximities may result in higher disease and parasite transfer between individuals and increased competition for resources, leading to aggression between individuals. However, this study implies that population social dynamics are not a static system and are able to adapt to environmental changes. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it.